So, what do you think you should do about it? Put that in the chat box. Like Allison, you talked about looking good. That's a fair response. What are you doing to battle ageism for yourself? Act young and hip? Emphasize my experience and strong work ethic. That's a good one. Be myself. Exercise. We'll talk about the better you feel about yourself, both physically and mentally, the better off you will be. Now, this is just simply normal life skills. More education, update certifications. Okay. Would also be good to show initiative on a task or work project. Come into the office early, maybe stay late. Yeah. Talk about the benefits of being a mature person. Allison, you can hit it right on. I am building my network and maintaining friendships, making acquaintances to battle ageism so I am relevant in people's minds and not a number in a company. Bingo. Okay? It is now. Be energetic. So, number one, ageism is propagated by our own behavior. We have to learn to treat everyone fairly. I'll use the example at my last tech startup. By the way, I worked for a company called Agira Inc. that was acquired by Lucent and then was spun out as Agear Systems, Lucent Microelectronics. And if you remember Lucent, they were the old AT&T equipment arm. They were the biggest basket case you ever saw in your life when they acquired us. They went from 195,000 employees in 2000 to 25,000 in 2007. They imploded. Well, when I left back in 2002, I had a near fatal bicycle accident. I came down a hill and hit a Toyota Corolla head on where our combined speeds exceeded 50 miles an hour. I shouldn't have lived. Long story short, I spent 5 days in a trauma center. They had me walking in crutches in 3 days. I was back on a bike in 10 weeks, flying back to China in 4 months. And by the way, I flew right into Guangdong province, November of 2002. And that was the epicenter of SARS-V1. You want to talk about being the wrong place at the wrong time? Classic example of that. And I decided to go off and teach high school math. I taught 2 years in an inner city high school. I then I couldn't do that and stay healthy. I then went off and did a year of nonprofit work. I then got sucked up into Life Size Communications, which is a predecessor to Zoom. And I really struggled primarily with the young women. My perspective had changed, and I really had to work at how to get along with them. So one of the things is we have to eliminate ageist language for ourselves. And by the way, as we look at like in Becky Levy's book, she talks about the fact that if we have positive age beliefs, in other words, when you see someone older, if you see them as old, or do you see them as someone wise with experience? When you have positive age beliefs, it affects your health, your well-being, and how people will perceive you. So one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do is look at, how do you look at other people? How do you feel about getting older? and learning how to, because by the way, we know from the various blue zones around the world where people, the most people live to over 100. We know that these people have very, very positive age beliefs. So one of the things I want you to do, if you go into an interview and everyone is much younger than you, the one thing I want you to do is identify the elephant in the room and say, you know what? I'm a lot older than all you guys. And I think someone commented about, what if you're trying to take a job that's below you? Bring it right out front. When I hired at my second startup, I walked in, the manager was probably 20 years my junior. I handed him a DVD of the training materials we had done at the previous, which by the way, was super sophisticated. They were all animations. And I basically said, look, I'm here to help you. I don't want your job. I've done your job and I don't want it. I have a guy in my online community who is 69. He had done major building projects. He had worked at a major university in Texas, had done a $500 million project. I mean, we're talking big stuff. And he interviewed with a company in Arizona that's a home builder. He walks in the room, there are 3 young guys in their 30s. And I can call them young because I'm old enough to be their father. They're kids. And when he walked out, and this guy's a real soft-spoken, he's a sweetheart of a guy. The recruiter, an hour later took him off to the side and said, you know what? You really intimidated them. And he's going, what? Well, he's got all this experience. He's got more experience than the 3 of them had together. He'd done stuff that they had never done. They were worried about losing their jobs. They ain't going to hire him. And I said, okay, that's when you got to identify the elephant in the room and talk about it immediately.